Hi there, everyone. My name's Louise Scott. I'm one of the lead teachers here at St Pauls Nursery School and Children's Centre. I'm also local specialist leader for personal, social, emotional development and wellbeing. I'll introduce my colleague, Dilly.
Hi, I'm Dilly. I'm a lead teacher here at St Pauls Nursery School and Children's Centre, and I'm the SENCO, so working across the setting to support children with special educational needs and disabilities.
So thank you for joining us today on this video. We're kind of making it, hoping to address some of the frequently asked questions around settling in. So it's a tricky time of year. There's lots of reoccurring questions that come up, and we wanted to address them in a really broad way that we hope will be helpful for everybody. Of course, we're promising to still have those really individual, personal conversations between you and your child's key person, but we hope this might be helpful in a broad sense to dip in and out of as it suits you.
First question. Okay, so this comes up every year. Why do I have to stay in the room with my child when they're settling?
So I suppose I'd start by saying your child has their primary attachment to you, the caregiver. That means that at the moment you are completely their safe base and their sort of secure haven. And while settling at nursery, your child is building secondary attachments to the adults in the room, to other children, but really you're remaining that really important safe base for them. And allowing space and time for the secondary attachments to grow will make sure that they're forming really securely, because secure attachments are the absolute key to resilience. So I suppose if you imagine a piece of elastic and you and your child are on each end, while they're at nursery school in that kind of unfamiliar environment, it's the first time that perhaps they've been in a setting or in a new room, the elastic is being tested. So it's being stretched out and then it's being pulled back together. You might notice this in those kind of check-in moments that they do if they're off playing and then they're coming back together. They might be doing a bit of independent exploring and they just want to keep coming, making sure you're still there. So that's really healthy. That's really good practice for that kind of separation and reunion. And as your child grows and spends more and more time here at nursery with you alongside them, that elastic will become stronger and stronger, and they'll be able to tolerate being away from you for longer and longer, which is exactly what we want. So our experience tells us that when children are supported to settle really slowly with you, their primary caregiver, their secure base in the room, that attachment and that kind of resilience will grow really securely and really solidly over time.
And we know, don't we, Louise, that staying with your child initially is a real investment. It's an investment in their longer term journey. And some children need that for a little bit longer. And some children make a strong attachment to their key person quite quickly, and then it can go more quickly. But it's all about your child and the individual and you as a family and what you need.
That's right.
Okay, I'll be ready for the next question.
I think so.
So once you're in the room, you're in there with your child, how can you help them to settle in the classroom? What do you need to do?
Yeah, great question. So, one of the first things that we really commit to here is making sure that your child has a peg and a family photo board, their family photo, on the board before they start. So a really great kind of way to start off your child's session would be to go and locate their peg in the cloakroom, find where they're going to be keeping all their precious things while they're here. It really supports and promotes that sense of belonging. It says to them, like, you belong here. We're claiming you. This space is for you. So finding those places, finding that family photo, finding that peg picture, and even the group time photo later in the year will have group time photos and names out on their allotted key group space. It will really promote that belonging, and help them look around the room, notice the things that they love to do at home, notice new and exciting things in a really gentle way, not a forceful, overwhelming kind of way, because it will be so overwhelming for your child. But gently, hey, I noticed the Duplo. We've got Duplo at our house. You really love that. I wonder if that's something you'd like to do now. Or, those really gentle kind of invitational ways of prompting play and making links to home.
Being playful with your child, playing alongside. I think sometimes families feel like don't quite know what to do in the space when their child is settling. But take your lead from them and play alongside them, I think, is really important. It helps them to connect to the room and the resources and the people.
so important, because they're looking to you, aren't they? They're looking to you for what to do when they're feeling unsure. So actually, if you're able to be playful and model those skills, then they're going to join you. They're going to want to be part of it. And I suppose the other thing in between nursery, on the way in, reflecting with them on what they've done that day, or planning ahead, what might they like to do, in a really gentle, playful way. I wonder what you might be thinking about doing today. I remember yesterday you were playing with the Duplo. I loved doing that with you. I wonder if we might do that again. All those links that they're making, and you're making for them, are going to support that settling for them.
So you get to the point where you've been on your visits, you've been settling your child, and then it's time to say goodbye. And you'll notice that the practitioners will ask you to make sure you've said goodbye to your child. So one of the questions we're often asked is, well, why can I not just sneak out? They're really busy, they're engaged, they're absorbed, they haven't noticed me for a while. I'm going to sneak out and wave to the practitioner that I'm leaving. So why would we ask you not to do that?
Again, such a good question, comes up every year. And I really understand it. It feels really counterproductive, doesn't it? If your child's really absorbed, if it's been a long settling journey and they're finally engaged and purposeful, and they haven't looked around for a bit, and it's going to be painful if they do, if you do approach to separate, it can be so tempting just to sneak out and avoid that. But the answer and the key, of course, is trust. So if you're sneaking away, the next day, we really know from experience, your child's not going to want to leave your side. You're kind of pushing it all the way back, because the trust is broken, and they're going to be wanting to keep their eye on you all the time. They're going to be wanting to be hyper vigilant rather than involved in play the next day, because they want to know that you're there. So even though it feels really, really, really counterproductive, it's so important that you're saying goodbye, and saying goodbye in a really kind of firm, positive way that also validates the emotions they're feeling is really important. But yeah, the goodbye is so important.
And then leading on from that, Louise, so how do we say goodbye? What do separations look like when you're leaving your child at nursery school?
So when you've had plenty of opportunity to stay and play alongside your child, you've done those kind of practice goodbyes. It might be that your child is feeling a little more anxious than others, then you might just practice by going to the toilet and just being really kind and clear in your explanation. This is what's going to happen. Preparing them is really key. And remember that you're the adult. Your child is going to take your lead from on this. So letting them know, hey, I can see you're busy painting here. I really need the toilet. I'm just going to pop across to the toilet. Remember, we looked at it on the way in. That's where I'll be. And then I'm going to come back. So preparing them in a really clear, kind way. They know exactly what's going to happen. They can imagine how long it's going to be. And then following through with that. And it might be really tricky for some children. It is really tricky if it's the first time you've left them, or even if it's not. If it's a different environment with different adults, then you have to treat it as a completely new separation, a new transition. So I suppose trying your best to look positive about it, even though you might be feeling really worried yourself, is really important. And just taking it bit by bit. So it might be that you pop to the toilet and then come back. And remember that elastic, that every time you're doing that, it's growing a really strong bit of elastic, a strong bit of resilience there for your child. And really, I know, Dilly, we always hear, sometimes we think about those offering bribes. I can go to the shop and get you something and bring it back. I know it's really tempting as a parent myself. I know that is really tempting because it's going to work in the short term. But I suppose you talk about, don't you, Dilly, that intrinsic journey, and rather than doing it for an extrinsic kind of reward, that it's probably the most difficult learning that child's going to do in their life, separating from you, their primary carer. So being alongside them on that journey and validating their emotions through it, whilst also remaining really clear and being the adult, is some of the most important learning they're going to do.
Yeah, and it's little steps. So small chunks. We know children learn in small chunks, and that's the same as separating with you. So doing really short amount of time to begin with, if your child is feeling really worried about it, and then the stretch. And feeling okay. I know there are pressures on families. You've got lots of things going on, maybe getting to work or whatever. But yeah, really, really important bit of learning for your child. and knowing that we're building their resilience, for the whole year at nursery school. So getting it right in the beginning, investing that time in the beginning with short steps out of the room and back in, or sometimes using a sand timer to say, I'll be going in this amount of time, and then doing that, then that's really helpful then.
So we're going to switch now. I think there are some more questions that I'd like to ask you, Dilly. So We'll switch roles if that's okay. So
that's all right.
One of the other things, what you just touched upon there, Dilly, of course, we understand the pressures of work and parents needing to be back in work as soon as they can and perhaps not expecting that really long settling period. So one of the questions we get often is, why does it take so long to settle children?
Yeah, really tricky for families. And I would say that it comes back to those previous questions that we were just talking about. So investing in your child's journey and separating from you and feeling okay. And we know that children can't learn across the curriculum if their emotional well-being isn't in place. So all of this stuff at the beginning is about investing in their emotional well-being so that they are then ready to access all of the provision on offer. And for lots of reasons, that takes some time. So we need to make sure that your child is ready and that you are ready to settle and to move away. And we know that happens in those short steps, and we're building it up and we're stretching it and making it longer and longer. Our experience tells us that the more we invest in that beginning bit, the better it is for the child long term, and therefore the better it is for you as a family. So if we get that bit right, the likelihood is that once they're settled, everybody is in the right place and the emotional well-being is really held and it's all feeling really positive, and everybody can start to move on. We know that if we don't get it right in that beginning bit, it can take longer and longer and longer and longer. It's really important to know that children are all different. Families are all different. Some children have that bit of learning in place already. They might have practiced it elsewhere. Some children, this is brand new and they need more time. And every family circumstance is different. And it's really important that you work with your key person to make sure you keep your child at the centre of that journey. And so sometimes that can take quite a long time, and trusting in your key person and their experience to tell you when it's the right time to really stretch out their time without you. The other thing to bear in mind is that it might be a very busy nursery classroom and there might be lots of children settling and with one key person. So that key person is trying to give that individual attention to each child. If all the children arrive at once and become dysregulated, that's not going to be a successful formula. So we need to give space and time for the key person to attend to each child and grow their journey. So some children don't settle straight away. They might start their settling journey a little bit later, and it's staggered. And it's staggered so that your key person can attend to your child.
Thank you, Dilly. And I was also thinking on a kind of practical note, those stay and play sessions where we invite one of you to come and stay and play alongside your child. Remember that it doesn't always have to be you. I think, with those work commitments, and it can be really tricky, can't it, if we're asking for quite a few stay and play sessions, and just think about that primary attachment figure. That might be a cousin or another family member, provided they're over 18, who is a really trusted person in the child's life to come and be alongside. Could be great.
Yep.
Thank you. So the next question is, so what will happen if my child is really distressed and isn't settling? What will happen in that circumstance?
So we know that if your child is really distressed, that's not only really horrible for your child, it's really horrible for you as well. And we recognise that part of settling can be so difficult. And for you to know when to step away and to trust your key person to go out for 5 minutes, even if your child's really distressed. Our teams, our practitioners are so experienced in settling children. They do it every year and throughout the year. And they're really experienced at supporting children who are distressed. And it's just a really hard place for children and families to be. And you might not have built up that trusting relationship yet with your key person. So it feels a bit tricky, but actually they're really experienced. There's no judgment. There's no shame. Your child is on their own journey. Sometimes you need to leave the room and your child's really distressed. And the practitioner will say, let's just give it 5 minutes. because we also know that after 5 minutes or so, your child may well settle. And sometimes they just need those short amounts of time with a practitioner alongside them, validating their feelings, talking about when their caregiver is going to come back. And separation distress is normal. It's normal for your child to be upset that you're leaving them somewhere where they're not yet feeling super secure. It's part of their development, and it's part of your growing relationship as a family. And that's what they're learning to do. So we will always work with you. We will never leave a child distressed for very long periods of time. We'd never do that. It's always okay for you to phone 10 minutes later, half an hour later, 2 hours later to say, could someone just go and check? Are they okay? That is always all right. We're always happy. If we can't get to the phone, we will send a message. And if your child is really distressed, we will call you. And I think for you to know that is really important. So as you leave that room with all of those feelings about your distressed child, trusting that practitioners will call you if your child needs you, while judging how long that wait is. If after 5 minutes it's really unusual, your child is still distressed, we're going to call you. We'll judge it by your child. So we'll follow them and you. Okay.
That's so reassuring, Dilly. Thank you. That relationship with the key person is so important, isn't it? And what we're talking about is trust. So it's really just a reminder that if there's anything you're ever feeling unsure about, please do always get in touch and call the key person. We'll do everything we can to explain or reassure, and just talk things through, because the trust is so important. So the next question, how about if my child is really, really angry and not wanting to come to nursery?
So tricky. Transition, separation, big feelings, children needing to gain some control over the situation. There's lots going on there, and that could be really hard for families. Working hard to get out of the house in the morning, all of the stuff that happens before your child even arrives at nursery, we know that's really busy, and you're often under pressure to get to work as well. And then your child is actually really distressed and just refusing. So we think about emotion coaching quite a lot and how to support children by offering high empathy. So really validating their feelings. But at the same time, we're going to offer some high guidance. And actually, it's going to be really clear what our routine is. And I hear you, and I'm going to attend to all of those big feelings alongside you and validate them. But unfortunately, we still do have to go to nursery. And that's a really hard place for families to be. So it's really helpful if you have a very clear and a very consistent routine for your nursery days. We have visual timetables at nursery, and we can also support you at home with visual timetables if that's helpful. So you can see now this, next this. And it's really clear, it's visual. So you don't need to have lots of talk, but it's the same every day, and the visuals are repeated every day. And that's really easy to follow. And it mirrors what we're doing at nursery school to support transitions and routines at nursery. So knowing what's coming next is really important, or knowing what their day looks like and using visuals so that your child can see each part of their day is mapped out, and they know when they're reconnecting with you, and they can see that visually. So that's really, really important. It's also important to remember that you're the adult and you're going to take the lead, and your child is going to follow your lead. And sometimes we as adults have to practice doing that as well. We don't want our children to be distressed. But actually, we're going to show them, we hear you, we can see those big feelings, and we're really listening to you, and I'm alongside you. So we're still making our way to nursery. We're going to follow our visual routine. Taking the lead, really, really important. Also, try not to get into a negotiation. So it's really easy for all of us to slip into these negotiations with our children, but being very clear about following that routine without negotiation is really important. So instead of, can you put your shoes on now? We'll say, we're going to put our shoes on now. Will you wear your blue shoes or your wellies?
That closed choice is always really, really helpful, isn't it? Because they're feeling autonomy within, boundaries. The outcome is always the one that you want.
Yeah, closed choices. So again, you're allowing your child some bit of control, but the outcome will be the shoes are on, whether they're the blue shoes or the wellies, the shoes are going to be on. So yeah, not asking the question, can you put your shoes on now? Because you might get a no, and then you're a bit stuck. But that we're going to put shoes on now. Also allow some time. So in your busy mornings, that's tricky, but allowing time for that. This is the routine and this is what we're following, but we also might need to build a bit of time into that. And then your child can complete some of those jobs themselves rather than it being done for them or to them. And again, that building that sense of autonomy and self-confidence. And we all have tricky mornings. So every family has tricky mornings. I often say to families as they come through the door, it's like you've done a full day's work already and it's 8:30 and you've arrived at nursery. We know you've worked really, really hard and your child's worked really, really hard to get to nursery. Again, back to your key person relationship, you can just, say to them quietly as you arrive or a bit of eye contact, it's been really tricky. They are there to help you and to do that really sensitive handover. And again, always calling you if they're worried or you call us if you want to check in. If the morning has been really stressful, when you're on your way out, making sure that you're doing that repair bit of that cycle, telling them how much you love them, following that routine. When am I going to see you again? I know that was really tricky this morning. I love you. I'm going to go to work and I'm going to see you at this part of the day so that you have that really positive ending. Some children find it really helpful to have transitional objects. So that's something that I'm going to bring this from home and I'm going to hold on to it at nursery, and it helps me hold home in mind and my family in mind. And actually that's really, really important to me. So sometimes that can be a very helpful tool. Try to make sure it's not their most precious object, because it can be really difficult if it's a very special thing that they sleep with and there's only one of them. Be really mindful about what that transitional object might be. But that can be really, really helpful. And then your key person, when it's time and when it's appropriate, can put it somewhere safe. But that might help that journey from home to nursery. Have I missed anything, Louise?
I think you've been really, really comprehensive today. Yeah, I think so. I think, as you said, the use of language is so powerful, isn't it? And even just the shift between, can you put your shoes on, please, to we're going to put our shoes on now and go to nursery. You can feel it, can't you? That kind of, you're taking the lead. The child feels safe. It's psychological safety is so important, feeling like, okay, I can do this alongside you. And it's not going to work every time, but it's something to keep in mind, isn't it? Thank you, Dilly.
Yeah.
Okay, the last question. So my child's been at nursery for a really long time. They started in the baby room. They've moved up to the 2-year-old room, and now they're coming into nursery school. Why is my child so upset when they're starting a new room? That's a question we get a lot, isn't it? And we see it a lot. A child who's perhaps been here for a long time with us, why are they so upset at the separation since moving rooms?
So, and again, for families, that's really interesting. It's the same building. It's the same staff team overall. Why is this so hard? And it particularly happens between that 2s to nursery school shift. It can be really tricky for families actually to navigate that transition. We can see that it's the same building and the same adults are around, but actually that's quite a lot of upheaval for your child. So that familiarity of room, key person, resources and routines is changing. And we're asking your child to learn to adapt. So adapt to a new routine and get to know a new key person and build trust and attachment with a new key person. It's often busier as you move from baby room to 2s or from 2s to nursery school. The ratios change and it's busier. There are more children, more people around. So actually, if I'm 3, I'm having to work much harder at regulating myself, managing quite a lot of interactions and keeping that going all day. And actually, children can find that really exhausting and really tiring. Your child might be grieving the loss of their other key person. They'll see them in the garden, they'll see them around, but they're not having story time with them. They're not seeing them all day, every day. And that's a loss for them. So they're managing that as well.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge because, we're asking so much of them. If you think of maybe your child's 3 years old and they've spent maybe a year in the 2-year-old room, that's a third of their life, isn't it? And we cannot underestimate, the kind of loss, the sense of loss they'll be feeling when they move into a different room. They just kind of got their head around the space, the environment, their friends, their key people, and all of a sudden everything's shifted and all those ratios, as you said, Dilly, it's all brand new again. So as you said, I really feel like whilst we can see it's the same centre in the same place, we can't underestimate that the enormity of it in terms of how a child is feeling about it.
Yeah. And sometimes what happens in those moments is that your child might show a little bit of regression. So they're using the toilet, they're not having toileting accidents, and suddenly they move to nursery and those start creeping up again. So that might happen. They might be a little bit more distressed in the morning. They might not be sleeping so well, really struggling to manage some of their emotions that before felt like, okay, we've got this, but now, something has happened. And I think it's about time. So it goes back to that settling. So that slow, gradual settling, all of the principles around the slow and gradual settling is what this is about. So whether it's from room to room or from new setting to new setting, going at the child's pace, being really loving, but taking the lead, and time. So some time, expecting a little bit of a dip. And then once those relationships and routines are in place and your child is feeling secure, I'm going to go in, I know where I'm going to go, I know where my peg is, I know who my person is, I know what other children are in my group. Once we've reached that point, you might find that those things settle back down again. So they need some time.
That's so helpful. And knowing that it's, as you said before, Dilly, just a normal, typical part of child development, that, regression can feel really horrifying, can't it? Or kind of disruptive when you've been working so hard on toileting or sleeping or, but just how resilient your child feels. All of a sudden, if it changes, it can feel really unsettling. But just knowing that that's, a really typical thing that we see a lot.
Really normal. And we talk to families a lot about it every year through every transition. And we're here to support and help you and your child. And with the benefit experience, we've seen it before and we can help you to work through it.
Thank you so much, Dilly.
My pleasure.
So we've come to the end of our questions. So I suppose all that's left to say is thank you so much for watching. We hope it's been helpful. And we're really looking forward to welcoming you and your child into nursery.
Thank you.